So I'm super excited about today's episode. It's going to be a long one, but I think it's important. There are a lot of terms floating around on the internet when it comes to narcissism,
Conditions as well.
like terms and conditions.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, but most of us have only a very vague understanding about what these terms mean or how to use them, and that's not a good thing. So I've done all of the legwork, and today we're going to do a deep dive into the four stages of the narcissistic relationship, including all of those terms that I'm sure most of us have heard about, along with their full definitions, and placing them in the appropriate place of the stages of the narcissistic relationship, so that you can see how it all fits together.
Get ready, everyone. We're going to be reading the fine print.
the the fine print. So if that sounds good to you, please subscribe to the channel, settle in, and let's get going. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Marriage Podcast, where we show you how to find and build a healthy marriage as a Muslim. I'm Zahra Hassan.
And I'm AJ, and we've been married for 4 years.
And before we get started, it's important to say that this episode is intended for single people. If you are married and suspect that your spouse may be a narcissist, please understand that nothing we say here or anywhere else is intended to help anyone come to that conclusion, just solely based on what we said. I recommend that you reach out to the people in your life that you trust. That includes friends or family, maybe a therapist or a counselor. And if there is any level of abuse involved, and there is no one else for you to turn to, I will list some resources below for those who are in the UK, Canada, or the US. And having my heart, as always, goes out to you. As for the single folks, now let's get started. So this week's episode is entitled The Four Stages of the Narcissistic Relationship. So what have you heard about narcissism, my dear?
Oh, okay, yeah. They're really good at manipulating people.
They, right? So not you?
Oh, you know what? I should have said we.
We, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you tell me all the time about how you're working on your manipulation skills.
Yeah, I'm trying to be better.
Yeah, so far unsuccessful.
Okay.
Alhamdulillah. But let's start by talking about who defined the four stages of the narcissistic relationship, right? Because overall, when it comes to people who have either narcissistic trait or are narcissistic personality disorder, if you remember from the last episode, we talked a little bit about what that is and how it lies on a spectrum. But for this group of individuals, the way that they interact in the context of a romantic relationship is so patterned to the point that there are actually four defined stages that are very consistent, right? The thing that you should know about these stages, though, is that they're not in the DSM, right? DSM-5. There aren't really studies that explicitly came up with the terms. There isn't a lot of research behind it. When I say research, I mean explicit research. This is actually originated by clinicians and therapists in a little bit more of an informal setting based on their experience, right? Based on what they were seeing in their patients and their clients. And it first appeared in the literature in a book in the 1960s by Kernberg, right? And he wrote about the first two stages that we're going to talk about, idealization and devaluation.
Mhm.
And for the next 40 years, the other two stages evolved primarily from the internet. All of the other little terms like gaslighting and love bombing, all these things, they primarily from the internet. Until around 2001, when they were compiled and into a book, and written down in a book called Malignant Self-Love by somebody named I always say his name wrong every time. Vaknin.
Oh, okay.
All right, so this gentleman Vaknin was a little bit of interesting because I went into his backstory. He was a very controversial figure. He's an Israeli financial consultant.
Ah,
So that means his background is not in psychology, it's not in counseling. But he was a self-declared expert on narcissism, which is why he wrote the book.
uh-huh.
And part of what made him the expert is that he is also a self-declared narcissist.
It takes one to know one.
Exactly. So this is the place where, as far as I'm aware, where the stages were first written out. And because of all the controversy associated with it, people who wrote about this topic later on often didn't really cite where it came from because of all the controversy. But these terms were very useful, and it's what a lot of people, particularly clinicians, so counselors and therapists, use today. Okay, so let's get into these 4 stages.
Yes.
So the first stage is the idealization stage.
By the way, what does DSM stand for?
I think it's the diagnostic statistic. Sorry, a diagnostic statistical. I can never say the word. Diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorders. So it's actually
Okay.
DSM-M.
500.
Yes, we're on the 5th iteration. And it's been ongoing for a while, but it's the one. It's the book. It's the reference book. Okay?
Okay.
It's the reference book that is used in the field of psychology, psychiatry.
Yeah.
But that's where the terms came from, and now that brings us to idealization. So, what exactly is idealization? It in the context of a narcissistic relationship with a narcissist, it would be what would be the honeymoon stage. It occurs from when you first meet them, or when they first find out you exist, up until the following stages start.
Yeah.
In my experience, and in some of the literature, it lasts for about 3 months.
Okay.
It lasts for about 3 months, especially during the first round. And during this idealization phase, there will be a number of tactics that are going to be employed, because the goal of the idealization phase is for you to become attached to them as quickly as possible.
Okay.
But the reason why that is because everything that they're going to be doing during this phase is going to be pretend, right? It's going to be pretend. It's not really sincere. It's exhausting for the people who have this personality disorder or share these traits, because it's really hard pretending on this scale.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So the first term that we're going to come across in this phase is love bombing. I'm sure. Have you heard of love bombing?
Yeah, actually I have.
Okay. Have you done love bombing?
You've taught me the phrase.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So you haven't done love bombing.
I'm pretty sure, like, subconsciously I would have.
Yeah, I think you're still doing it.
You're absolutely correct.
Yeah, our whole marriage is just one long love bomb.
Yeah.
But in general, love bombing is overwhelming attention and affection. So when an individual meets you, this will take many forms. The most common form is through verbal affirmation. So they're going to tell you a lot about how wonderful you are. There's nobody like you. They've met her. Like, just all of the things to make you feel powerfully seen and powerfully special and unique.
Yeah.
Okay? Other things that they'll do is gifts is very common. So there will be a lot of gifts. Other things that they'll do is particularly depending on how much money they have, will be grand gestures, right? So more sophisticated, more wealthy love bombers. These are the ones who take you on a trip around the world for the weekend, So the grand gestures, things that feel excessive. So the most important part of the love bombing phase is that they're going to give you a lot of time and attention. Another thing that happens during the idealization, or the first stage of being in a relationship with a narcissist, is future faking. Again, it's exactly what it sounds like, right? This is where they try to paint a fantasy about what the future will look like if your relationship were to continue with them. A more formal definition is that this is deceptive commitment signaling. Right? So they're telling you, I am super committed. We're going to have this wonderful life. This is what our marriage is going to look like. We're going to sit down and watch Netflix on the couch. They're going to tell you what they think that you want to hear about what you want your future to look like.
Yeah.
Right? And it's very important to understand this, because remember how I talk about that there are, in my opinion, 7 different archetypes of people who are the wrong type of individual that you don't want to get married to.
Mm.
One of the archetypes is what I call in love with love. So individuals who are looking, who are looking to get married just to experience being married, and once the responsibilities and everything else that is associated with that comes along, they leave, right? And then they go and start a new relationship so they can re-experience the initial stage of being in love. So those are in love with love. People who are in love with love also do future faking. However, the picture that they paint for you is going to be according to what they want, not according to what
Ah.
you want, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's a subtle difference here, but for instance, if in your conversations you say something like, I don't really want children, or maybe I want children later. The person in love with love is going to say, well, in the picture that they paint for you, they're going to say, we're going to have 4 kids, 2 girls and 2 boys. Like they're going to be painting the picture according to what they want, not what you want.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Whereas with a narcissist, they're going to say, well, we're not going to have any kids. It's going to be me and you in our condo, in our house. This is what we'll do on the weekend. Do you see what I'm
Ride
saying?
or die forever.
Yeah. So that there's a little bit of a subtle difference there, but the important thing is that, especially with the narcissist, none of this is sincere. You might ask the question of, well, where are they getting the information to be able to future fake me? How do they know what I want? That brings us to the next tactic. Next tactic, it's named differently depending on which source you read, right? And again, all of these sources are going to be relatively informal. It's not really in the literature, but I like this one, so we're going to go with this one. This tactic of selective vulnerability.
Yeah.
And honestly, what that means is that you just met this person, right? Either on a dating app or through your family, whatever. This person just came into your life, and you became aware that each other existed. Having just met them, they immediately start becoming super vulnerable, right? They start telling you very big, deep things about their lives, particularly traumas they've experienced.
Yeah.
Right? However, the reason why they're doing this is twofold. The first reason they're doing this is for you to become sympathetic for them, to make you feel bad for them, feel sorry for them. This will be useful for them later on, because it's especially for those of us who have codependent tendencies. You're gonna it'll make it easy for you to excuse when they start doing negative things, negative behaviors in the devaluation stage, right?
Yeah.
So they want to prepare you for that by giving you giving you the excuses of how they had a difficult childhood, difficult relationship, difficult marriage, some traumas. The second reason why they are telling you about all their traumas or being super vulnerable is to encourage you to be vulnerable back to them. So we just naturally do that, especially, again, those of us who have codependent tendencies. And you'll notice I keep saying that because narcissists' favorite type of individual are those who have codependent tendencies.
Yes.
Those who have codependent tendencies have poor sense of boundaries, right? Particularly internal boundaries. So when they start telling you about all of the difficulties they went through, you naturally find yourself telling them about all the difficulties you went through, about your insecurities, right? And about the things that you want for your life, right? The things that you start being super open with them. So, and especially with the insecurities, again, this is going to be ammunition for them later on during the devaluation stage, when they start challenging your self-esteem by targeting those insecurities that you told them about during this selective vulnerability in the idealization phase.
Yeah.
I know that was a lot of words. Hopefully that made sense, right? Okay, so that's where they get the information, and you are now feeling bad for them. So when they did all that. So that brings us to the next one. Because for the sake of time, there's actually a very long list of tactics. The ones that we went through, the 3 that we went through, the love bombing, future faking, and selective vulnerability, are, in my opinion, the most important. That's why we went through those. Quickly, we're going to go through a couple more, just for the sake of time. Yeah? Okay. Yeah? You with me still?
Yes, indeed.
Did I put you to sleep?
Not at all. No, I'm doing so much calculations in my mind
Yeah.
that it's hard to keep track.
Is it making sense so far?
It's making sense, but I'm just trying to figure out if you're a narcissist.
You know what? I have asked myself that so many times. But somebody told me this a long time ago, where I had a friend who was actually a licensed marriage counselor. And she explained that if you think that you're a narcissist, right, and you're concerned about it, you're worried that you might be, it's not a good thing, like you're worried about it,
Yeah.
you're unlikely to be a narcissist. If
Okay.
if you think you're a narcissist and you're just like, oh, okay, interesting information, right?
Okay, so I'm
Then,
not a
yeah.
narcissist.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're not a narcissist.
In Shaa Allah.
Well, no, because I'm worried that you're a narcissist, so you're not.
Okay, no, I mean if the individual, like if I'm worried that I'm
I
a
get it.
narcissist, yeah, okay, you
No,
got
I
it.
get it, yeah.
All right, we should say narcissist more. I don't think we said it enough in this podcast.
True.
Okay, we'll do what we can. All right, so that brings us to mirroring. Now, do you remember there was an episode of The Office? Because I watch way too much of The Office, the American version,
Yeah.
where the character Andy, he first came to the office on his first day of work, and he was getting out of the car, and he said that he's going to be climbing up the ranks very quickly by doing three things, right?
Yeah.
So number one, name repetition. Number two, mirroring, and number three, what was it? Never being the first one to let go of a handshake.
Oh, God.
All right, and this is very accurate. This is very accurate. And if you watch The Office all the way
Did he end up shaking Dwight's hand and they were just there the whole day?
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
Okay.
I think right away, actually. But if you watch the series all the way through, spoiler alert, you find out that Andy has a lot of narcissistic traits, right?
Yeah.
So this is consistent with who he is. But I always thought that was interesting. So mirroring is exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah.
It's where you watch a person's mannerisms and their opinions, and you try to copy them.
Yeah.
You're essentially becoming a yes man.
Yeah.
Yes man. That's what it is. So if you meet somebody and you state your opinion about something, and they say, yeah, my opinion is the same, and you say, no, actually I made a mistake, I meant the opposite. They're like, yeah, the opposite. That's what I meant to. Right?
I see. Okay.
So it's a lot of that, but it's a little bit more subtle, right? But it's a lot of that. Another one, another tactic that happens during the idealization phase is boundary testing. Because they prefer people who have poor boundaries, right? Like dependent.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with being codependent. I believe I'm a codependent, right? And I understand where a lot of these tendencies come from.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just letting people know that if you have these tendencies, to be aware that there are people who are specifically targeting and choosing you. But with respect to boundary testing, it's a lot of calling you all of the time and telling you, I miss you, like you just met this person, I miss you all the time, I want to be around you all the time. It's they want to sort of erode the social contract of maintaining a formal distance, especially in the context of Islam, in order to get you used to moving at their pace, not at your pace, right? So boundary testing. So that's what we're going to cover for the idealization phase. If anyone has any questions, as always, feel free to reach out in the comments. So that brings us to stage 2, the devaluation stage. I know we're probably far above time, but just bear with me. I think this is all important information. So the devaluation phase is, again, what it sounds like. It's the exact opposite of the idealization phase. In this one, they are primarily trying to undermine your self-esteem, your self-confidence, right? So if you want a little bit of a more formal definition, this is the one that I found. It is a relational shift in which a narcissistic individual withdraws positive regard and replaces it with criticism, indifference, or contempt once the partner no longer reliably supports their self-image. I'm going to need to start practicing reading. It's becoming an issue, right? But that's essentially what it is. It's when they're trying to undermine your self-esteem. That's what devaluation is. The way that it progresses, like, is remember you have like the first 3 months, up to the first 3 months. The more malignant a narcissist is, or the more further up they are on that spectrum, the shorter the love bombing stage will be, because it will be harder for them to maintain that mask, that pretending.
Yeah.
But it's up to about 3 months. So after that 3 months finishes, it's not going to be like one day they're going to wake up and they're going to say, "Hey, we're starting the next phase." There's a little bit of a transition, right?
Yeah.
And that transition will start being a little bit subtle, and as it progresses, as the time goes on, months go on, or if you accidentally marry somebody, years go on, then the it will become more and more direct, more and
Yeah.
more direct. So in the beginning, they might make little jokes, and when you look at them a little bit, they'll be like, "You're being too sensitive. I was just joking."
Oh, I
Right?
see.
So there's like a bit of a positive regard.
Yeah.
And then over time, they stop joking. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's how it tends to progress. So what are the specific tactics? The first one is very obvious: the gradual withdrawal of affection. Right? So all of the things that used to happen during the love bombing phase is going to become less and less and less. All
Yeah.
of that attention, all of that time, all of the gifts becomes less and less and less. And
Yeah.
this part can be probably the most painful, right,
Mm.
for people. And the memory of how it felt to be in the love bombing stage is a big part of what keeps them in the relationship, because you're subconsciously hoping for that to come back,
Yeah.
right? So there's that withdrawal of affection. So the second tactic is intermittent reinforcement. In layman's terms, this is breadcrumbing, right?
Ah.
So in intermittent reinforcement, it's I think we spoke about this on an earlier episode. This is based on a study with rats, I believe. But just quickly, when you go, well, when someone goes to a casino or a place where there's a slot machine,
Yeah.
have you ever seen the people are stuck there? They continuously pull on the lever.
Usually they're the seniors or the elders. They'll
Yes.
just pull the big red lever. I
Yeah.
think it's the red lever.
Yeah.
And then the things goes boing, 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 boing.
So why did they? So even if it's been like an hour and there hasn't been a payoff, what do you think keeps them sitting there?
I think the machine's programmed to give little tiny payouts every so often.
Yeah, it's the hope for the payoff.
Yeah.
It's the hope that the next one is going to be the payoff, right? So
Yeah.
even if it's been hours, it's that idea that because it's inconsistent, like the way that the payoff is delivered, it's not going to be every third pull of the lever. It's delivered at random times, intermittently, right? At
Mhm.
random times. So you're always left with the hope for the payoff or the reinforcement. So that's intermittent reinforcement. And again, in layman's terms, that's breadcrumbing, or sometimes people call it hot cold behavior. Right?
Yeah.
Powerfully, this leaves people stuck, always waiting for the next payoff. And if you don't recognize it for what it is, how manipulative it is, you can find yourself being stuck there waiting for it. Because like we said, as they're transitioning from love bombing to the devaluation phase, it's gradual. So the love bombing tactics that we talked about start to become delivered intermittently, and you're just waiting for the next payoff.
Yeah.
Another one, and I'm sure we've heard of it, is gaslighting. So the third tactic in devaluation is gaslighting. Have you heard of gaslighting?
Yeah, I have actually.
Yeah. Can you tell me what it is?
Honestly, I don't think you've ever heard of gaslighting, to be honest.
Are you gaslighting me?
No, not at all.
That was twice. Gaslighted me twice. I like that. I probably shouldn't say that. But gaslighting, if there is I think this is an important one to have a bit of a more formal definition. It says here that it is when an individual challenges your reality with the intent of gaining control or power, right? So gaslighting is exactly that. It's a challenge to your perception of reality. It's challenging what you think happened, or what you think you saw, or what you think you heard, right? So many of us who are following the news there was a particularly important event that happened in the United States on Saturday.
Yeah.
There's actual video where we watched the video, we saw what happened with the video with our own two eyes. And then administration came out and said, okay, so that didn't happen. This other thing happened, right? So that's a
Yeah.
form of collective gaslighting. So that's what gaslighting is. So the term, I've always wondered, like, why is it called gas? It's just call it, challenging a reality or something that makes sense. So it's called gaslighting, sort of as an homage to a play from the 1930s
Hmm.
that they made a movie about in the 1940s, called Gaslight. And in this movie, there's a husband who got married to a woman, the wife. They're newlyweds in a new house, and he decided. I think it's like I don't want to give any spoiler alerts, but he decided that he's going to start gaslighting her. And the way that he did that is in the olden days, you could control how bright the lights were
Yeah.
by turning the gas higher or lower.
Yeah.
And that's in order to make her think that she's a little bit not stable.
Yeah.
It's available for free on YouTube. I've watched it. I think it's actually a very good film. I highly recommend it if you're bored one day.
Oh, nice.
So that brings us to this is a little bit more obvious. This fourth tactic of criticism and just comparing you to other people, right? So they essentially do exactly that.
Yeah.
Criticize you and compare you to other people, particularly to undermine your self-esteem.
I think all of my teachers were narcissists, if that's the case.
Were they constantly comparing you to other people?
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah, they'll just keep handing out grades.
You know what? That is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to do something about that.
That's crazy.
It is absolutely crazy. And that brings us to the fifth one. And the fifth one we're going to spend a little bit of time on because it's, I think, important. The tactic of blame shifting.
Mm.
So, in essence, blame shifting happens when a narcissist provokes you, right? Does something to provoke you, and then you react to the provocation, and then they blame you based on your reaction.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So they provoke you, you react, and you are now blamed. So the way that I've seen clients describe this is that sometimes narcissists will have done something, or there's an unmet need or something actually negative that happened, and they want to talk to them. They want to have a conversation with them. So they'll sit down, they'll think the situation through. Sometimes they'll write it down. They'll write down what they want to say because of all of the gaslighting that happens. Their reality becomes challenged so often that they feel the need to write things down in order to be able to have something concrete to hold onto during these conversations.
Yeah.
So they'll write down what they need to say. They'll approach them very kindly, very gently. They're just trying to be heard. Hey, this thing that happened really hurt my feelings and it made me this particular way. So that's their intention. And they do all that. And then the narcissist doesn't like that, or the person who's narcissistic trait doesn't like that because on some level you're challenging how good their image of themselves, right?
Mhm.
It causes some degree of narcissistic injury.
Yeah.
They don't like that. So what they do is they shift the blame to you. They shift the blame to you. There's, I only said that because you did this, or they might gaslight and just simply say, no, that didn't happen, I don't know what you're talking about. And then based on the things that they say during this interaction, you will find yourself reacting to it because
Yeah.
it's uncomfortable when your reality is challenged this way. And you say, no, it's like, look, I have this written down, I took a video, I have all this evidence, and then you start to get upset. And then because you're upset, they'll say, look how you're overreacting. And now the blame shifts back to you and the extent of your reaction. And
Mhm.
very quickly, you will find yourself apologizing to this.
Yeah.
So it's very painful when it happens. But in general, something bad or something negative happened to you. You want to address it. And at the end of that conversation, you find yourself apologizing to this person.
Yeah.
That's what blame shifting is.
That's wild.
It is like when people go through it, they go through it. So that brings us to the third stage of being in a relationship with a narcissist. The first stage was idealization. The second stage was devaluing, where they undermine your self-esteem. And the third stage is discard. Again, exactly what it sounds like. Essentially, this is when they abandon you. They abandon you in one way or another. If you are not living together, then they just literally walk away. They ghost. Sometimes they'll abandon you while still living together by emotionally withdrawing, becoming very cold, stonewalling. So it's they're abandoning you, or they stop engaging in the relationship. Why do you think they'll do this? What are some explanations?
They're going to try to lower your self esteem so that you're more pliable.
Yeah, but when they're going through the discard phase, it's usually with an intention to end the relationship.
Oh, they're trying to leave you.
Yeah, they're trying to leave you.
Interesting.
And there is a very long list of reasons why, but it boils down to one of two things. Usually a combination of both, but one of two things. Either the narcissistic supply, or AKA the validation that you were giving them, is not enough, or the injury, the narcissistic injury to their self esteem and sense of self is too much.
Yeah.
Too much. So some causes of that, uh, why they would have some degree of narcissistic injury. Maybe you pointed out the inconsistencies and the things that they say too much. You might have given them video evidence. You yourself might become more independent and more successful than they are,
Yeah.
resulting in narcissistic
So
injury on their part.
basically, they find out that you're catching on to them.
Exactly. Actually, that's a much better way to put it.
Mm.
That's what that is. So they leave, right? And when they leave, oftentimes, not all the time, oftentimes they usually will have found a replacement supply or a
Yeah.
better supply, right? Sometimes they'll simply meet somebody who they consider to have a higher status than you. And because they have a higher status than you, their status will make them feel better about themselves. So they will leave them for this other leave their partner for this new individual. And oftentimes there's a lot of overlap. In other words, there's cheating. So these are things that happen. They don't happen all the time, but they do happen commonly enough that it's mentioned.
Mm.
So that's what the discard phase is. Now, the issue with the discard phase is that it's rarely peaceful. It's rarely peaceful, especially when part of the reason they left is because of narcissistic injury. And if you share property, if you have children, if you, sorry, this is particularly for single people. But on the extreme cases where there are reasons for them to continue being in your life, for example, if you're in a talking stage with somebody who is known to your family, a regular person, like they might be a neighbor or just a regular part of your community, a coworker someplace, and so that you're going to have to be in a similar vicinity. The problem when you go through the discard phase with somebody like this is that it will be rarely peaceful. They will do often whatever they can to destroy your relation, to destroy your reputation, and to control the narrative about what it is that happened with that relationship. There's again a number of tactics that they employ. Um, they will do what's called a smear campaign, which is exactly what it sounds like, which is where they start telling people, he's this, or she's this, or did you know, did you know, did you know? Sometimes they'll bring other people into that smear campaign to do what's called triangulation, where they'll start a three-way call or they'll meet you someplace along with another individual, right?
Yeah.
Who is on their side, and they'll say, "See, so and so agrees with," like the two of them sort of gang up on you.
So they're all just cannibals.
Well, yeah, but we're not gonna say that. But yeah, like emotional, right? Emotional. There's another tactic called flying monkeys. Flying monkeys is a term that comes from the Wizard of Oz, where the witch, she had these flying monkeys. So here, the flying monkeys are, instead of talking to you directly, they're gonna talk to people around you, usually
Mhm.
family members, sometimes friends, and they'll say, they'll either tell them to directly or indirectly go and talk to her and make her feel bad about herself.
Yeah.
Or go and talk to him and make him feel bad about himself.
Yeah.
So, but proxies, they'll send proxies. And so these are all tactics that they'll employ during the discard phase in order to destroy your reputation and to control the narrative about what happened. See, the thing that I have found over the years in my experience is that discards are rarely final. And the reality is, God forbid, if you are ever in a situation with an individual like this is for single people. The reality is that they will leave and come back, leave, come back, leave, come back. The final discard is going to have to be coming from you.
Yeah.
So these are the clients who I counsel, sorry, not counsel, coach, because I'm a coach, I'm not a counselor. But these are the clients who I coach to, actually block them, actually cut off contact, actually make it so that it's impossible for this person to reach back out to them. Because they can't, it's part of narcissism is that they can't do a final discard. Why? Because you are an object who provides narcissistic supply to them. And if for whatever reason they've run out of narcissistic supply, they're going to come back to you.
Yeah.
Right? And how do they do that? That brings us to the fourth and final stage, hoovering. Hoovering. So hoovering is exactly what it sounds like. It's when they suck you back into the relationship.
Yeah.
Right? And once they do that, the cycle begins again with the idealization and love bombing, eventual devaluation, and eventual discard. Like it's a cycle that goes around and around and around. Sometimes people go through the same the same 4 cycles with the same individual many, many times. I've had clients who are married and remarried to the same individual multiple times, and I can see that they're going through the same cycle. However, it's important to know that the love bombing or the idealization phase, the part of the cycle that actually feels good, that becomes shorter and shorter and shorter with each iteration. Which for some people, like I've had clients who become frustrated by it because the memory of that cycle is of the idealization phase is what keeps them in that talking stage or in that relationship. And they're like, he used to do this or she used to do this, and it felt, why don't they do that anymore? I mean, we
Yeah. Why don't
reconciled.
they do that anymore?
Yeah, we reconciled, we went through everything, and I've read all this about the hoovering. Why don't they do that anymore? Because it gets shorter and shorter, right? They do what's necessary, not what you want. They do what's necessary in order to get you attached. If you're already attached, there's no reason to repeat all of the things that they had to do. And those are the 4 stages of being in a relationship with a narcissist. Hopefully that was clear. As always, I'm just going to give a very brief summary. Just bear with me. So stage 1 is the idealization stage, wherein they go through love bombing, future faking, the selective validation in order to get you attached as quickly as possible. And once you're attached, they start to move towards the second stage gradually, shifting gradually towards devaluation. And in that devaluation, they start they start withdrawing their affection, doing the intermittent reinforcement to keep you seated. Then they start doing gaslighting, criticism, and blame shifting. Right. And then at some point, when either the injury, the narcissistic injury that happens is too much, or the supply that you're giving them is too little, they start doing the discard. This is much more sudden, right? And it's an abandonment in whatever way they can abandon you. Physically is preferred, where they just leave. If they can't leave, they'll do emotional abandonment, where they'll just become cold and start stonewalling. It's important to remember that during this phase, it's rarely peaceful, right? Especially if there are aspects of your life that you share, and they will work very hard to destroy your reputation and to control the narrative of what happened in that relationship. But the most important thing to remember about the discard phase is that the final discard is not going to come from them. It's going to have to come from you.
Yeah.
Eventually, when they need supply again, they'll come back, hoover you up, and start the process again.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so all of that, did all of that make sense, or was I just rambling in my head?
No, I mean, you were rambling out loud. No, but that made sense. That made sense.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, my dear. I know this was another lecture episode.
It has to be because it's a very tough and sensitive subject.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so that brings us to the end of this episode. If you have made it this far, Jazaa K'Allah Khayr, we appreciate you so much. If you're a young woman and you are in that process of looking for a spouse and you have met somebody that you like, but you have no idea what to say, and during the talking stage, in order to assess compatibility, feel free to download my free compatibility guide in the description below. Also, if you are starting your process of searching for a spouse and you're thinking about using the dating apps, and again, you're a young woman, um, I have a free webinar entitled Dating App Strategies That Actually Work. It's 1 hour long. We've been holding it for the last year. We're only going to do 2 more iterations, so January and February. So if you are interested in that, again, the link for that is in the description below. If you haven't subscribed, if anything we've said made sense and is interesting, and you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please subscribe. It really genuinely does absolutely help us out. And if you are already subscribed, Jazakallah khair, we appreciate you more than you know. So I think that's all the things.
Yeah.
We will be back hopefully later this week for an episode for married people. Please bear with me, like because I've been like this episode took like 50 takes because of all of the coughing.
Yeah. We had to pause recording so many times.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do my best, inshallah. We're gonna do our best, inshallah, to get it out this week. And just thank you so much for following us through this. So, Jazakallah khair. Have a great week, and assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.